This conference will now be recorded.
6 p.m. on Thursday, September 26th. We have a quorum of council. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would please rise for the invocation.
Bow your heads and close your eyes. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day, and I thank you for everything that you bless us with, God. I thank you for just allowing us to be here this evening. Lord, I pray that you please just be with this meeting, and I pray that you please just continue to be with those that are elected representing our city. I pray that you please just continue to be with our city administrator and those that are in city council, and I pray that you just give them wisdom and guidance as they continue to lead our city for growth and for just continuing to grow our city. Lord, I pray that you'll please just continue to be with our fire chief and our police chief. I pray that you'll just allow them to have your peace and your protection. That you'll please just be with them and just give them wisdom as they continue to be our peacemakers in this city. And Lord, I pray that you'll please us to have your grace upon this city and just give us guidance and direction. In Jesus' name I pray.
At this time, we have moving on for the announcement. First of all, I'd like to let everybody know that come 1 October, we are moving to a new dispatch system. For the new non-emergency number, and I repeat, non-emergency number, will be it's on our website, it'll be on our socials. It's area code 940-393-0300. Repeat, 940-393-0300. That'll be effective 1 October.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to jump in. We are, as most of you know, and for those who are going to listen to this either tonight or at another time, we're moving dispatch centers effective October 1. The council approved an interlocal agreement with the city of Decatur, so we will be transitioning off of the Wise County Sheriff's Office dispatch services and onto an interlocal with the city of Boyd and the city of Rhome, and we will all be dispatched out of the city of Decatur. So nothing will change for our residents as far as being able to reach someone in an emergency. You do the exact same thing you do at any other time, and you dial 911. But please be mindful of the number that the mayor gave you for non-emergency numbers, because that is changing effective next Tuesday. Correct, Tuesday? Monday.
All right. At this time, I would ask everybody to please silence your electronic devices. Appreciate it. 1 October will be monthly bulk trash pickup. Also on that on that day, we will have the National Night Out from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Rhome Family Park. Everybody can make it. October 2nd will be our monthly outdoor warning siren test, weather permitting. October the 6th will be the Fire Prevention Week, 6th to 12th. October 7th will be our next planning and zoning meeting at 6 p.m. And on the October 19th, there will be a bulk trash day along with a shredding day. There will be a truck here for people that have documents they need to get shredded here at the community center on October the 19th. And there'll be dumpsters out here. This will not be for hazardous materials, by the way. Bulk trash.
The agenda says the 5th, Mayor, and just to make sure that I clear that up for everyone, we weren't able to get all of our ducks in a row for the 5th, so we are moving that to the 19th. We will have 3 roll-off dumpsters, so if you have items of any size that you have not been able to get out to your curb for the bulk trash pickup on Tuesday, you're more than welcome to bring them by here. We cannot take oil, Freon, batteries. We tried to find a vendor who would come and do hazardous material, because most of us have those type of things around our home, paint that we'd like to get rid of and other things. But boy, you just can't find anybody who will come out to do that on site for us. So we switched to shredding. So if you have any personal documents that you do not want to try and shred up at your home, the truck will be on site from 8 to 12, and they will shred on site. So that's a service that we're going to offer to our residents, and we're going to try for conversations with the mayor to build that into at least twice a year as a service to our community. We will need a water bill to establish residency in order to participate, but we hope that we have a good turnout. And one of the other things that staff and I are discussing is there may be bands of us going out this week in general pick up of trash around town during that same time frame of 8 to 12. So if anyone from council or the community would like to participate, just let us know and we'll coordinate that with all of you. And we will put out more information both in the October newsletter and in the on our social media page.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda, I would like at this time to have, and if you could update us with this city council calendar.
Thank you, Mayor. I had noticed that there are at least 3 council members who are going to TML the 9th through the 11th, which is a wonderful opportunity. TML is the Texas Municipal League Conference, where they will go and hear multiple people speak over that 3.5 days or the 3 days. They will speak to us about things specific to municipal government that will benefit the city of Rome. I'm very pleased that we have 3 council members who were able to attend this year. We are taking 3 staff members, and we will go through not only the vendor booths to gain some information about a variety of things that may benefit the city, but as well as those sessions that apply directly to things that are facing our community. So as such, we would not have enough folks here to have the council meeting on the 10th because the conference is right during that same time. So in talking with the mayor, the suggestion is that we move the meeting in October from the 10th to the 17th, which seems to work for most people, and then cancel the meeting on the 24th because we have a couple of other council members who will be traveling at that time and we may not have a quorum. So what you have before you this evening still shows the 24th, but I can take that off. That's not as difficult as rescheduling. So what we put before you for consideration is moving the 10th to the 17th, and then we would likely cancel the 24th. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer those.
Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to the regular agenda. I need to move number 6 to the front. Got that one out of order. Number 6 is consider all matters incident and related to the issuance and sale of City of Rome, Texas General Obligation Improvement Bonds, Series 2024, including the adoption of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of such bonds.
Thank you, sir. We do have Michael Martin with Hilltop Securities with us this evening. Michael, if you'll go to the mic in the back, just make sure you push it so that it's on and speak as closely into it as you can. We have a lot of folks in the community who are interested in the progress of the bonds as the voters most graciously went to the polls in May and approved this investment in Rome. So we're very excited to hear the news that you have for us this evening and to start to see this come to fruition.
Yes, thank you, Ms. McGann. Michael Martin from Hilltop Securities. I work with John Martin, who's the financial advisor for the city. I'm just going to go over a few of the points in this sale book that you guys have in front of you here. So starting out with the last page of the first tab, the page right before the second tab. It says members of the financial team on it at the top there. And see financial advisor, Hilltop Securities, that's us. Bond counsel is Rose Fulbright, so they get all the documents together, make sure everything is, all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted for documents to go to the Attorney General. Purchaser is Robert W. Baird and Company. They're a investment banking firm out of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We sold these bonds on a competitive basis. I'll go through that in a second and how that works, but basically we send out a document that says these are the parameters for the sale, this is what it looks like, and then they submit a bid, the lowest interest cost wins. All right, moving on to the second tab, it's going to say ratings direct at the top there. Feel free to ask any questions if you guys have on speak. So whenever we go out and sell publicly offered debt to the city, we start a rating process with one of the rating agency firms. The rating agency we used this time was Standard & Poor's. And I'm happy to report that the Standard & Poor's has affirmed the A+ rating from bond rating for you all with the underlying and these bonds. And The bonds are actually sold at a double A level. I'll explain in a second how that works. We purchased, or not we, the purchaser used bond insurance for this. The bonds would sell at double A rate, which lowers the interest cost of the loan. Just a couple of things I want to go through here that are pretty bragging things for the city. Top of page 3 in the report, it says, in keeping with its conservative budgeting practices, the city is working to accommodate growth while making minimal changes to its maintenance and operations rate. Its sales taxes are currently increasing and are approximately $200,000 ahead of last year and the budgeted figure. Sales tax is currently the primary revenue stream for the city at around 45%, followed by property tax at almost 30%, and municipal court fines at 13%. Management is budgeting for a slight surplus in fiscal 2025 and reports no areas of concern for the year. One more point I want to point out on here is the second bullet of that page. The city has ended the past 3 fiscal years with surpluses, leading to a 17.1% average net operating results as a percentage of revenues. Management budgeted for a surplus in fiscal 2024, which the city is currently tracking for, as well as for a slight surplus in 2025. And is continuing to budget conservatively with the aim of not outpacing growth. Some good things there from S&P, from Ms. DeGan and her staff that do a great job getting the finances for the bond. Moving on to tab 3. So as I mentioned previously, the bonds were sold on a competitive basis. So we received 6 total bids. The winner was Robert W. Baird with the second place, which is what we call the cover bid, is the Baker Group. So you can see it's the TIC at bidding time was 4.04%. Moving 2 pages after that, it's going to be has the city of Rome at the top with sources and uses of funds. So this is kind of just like the flow of funds for the bond money. The par amount bond should say bond there. 17, we get 315,000. We get premium of 616,000, and the deposit to project fund is 17.5 million. That is the amount that the voters approved, and that is the amount of money that you will receive when closing occurs, which is, I believe, October 22nd. So here in a few, or next month. You can see cost of issuance, underwriter's discount. That's pretty much the sales commission for the underwriters. And then there's bond insurance premium. So Robert W. Baird paid about $20,000 to lower the interest rates of the deal. In a competitive deal, the purchaser is the one that pays for the bond insurance, so you guys don't have to pay for that bond. Moving to the second page, this is what the actual cash flows look like. You guys have a 30-year deal, first payment in 2026, and final payment in 2024. The average debt service is about $1 million. And the maximum tax rate that we're projecting is 39 cents. I believe whenever the voters approved, we're looking at a little over 40 cents, I believe. So it's nice that it came in a little lower than expected. And your final true interest cost is 4.07528. So the rate you got, that's the rate. Moving on to, and also these bonds have a call date in 2023. So 9 years from now, if the market is right, you can refund these bonds to get a lower cost of interest for the city. Wait until then to do anything. And the last page on that tab is the cost of issuance budget. You have financial advisor, that's our fee. Bond counsel is Norton Rose Fulbright's fee. The attorney general fee, anytime that you sell publicly offered debts, has to be approved by the AG, and they like to collect a little fee on that. The S&P, the rating agency, you have to pay them as well. Paying agent, which is like the trustee for the bonds, they handle sending out. We'll send you, U.S. Bank will send you invoices for everything. That's pretty much all I have. Tab 4, that's what we call the offering document. So this gets sent out all over to Wall Street. Any investors that like to potentially invest in the city of Rome bonds has all the information in this preliminary official statement for them to see. And then tab 5, there's some just suggested motion language. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but just trying to make it easier for you. That's about all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
I have a question for you, and I don't know if this is something that you would answer or if Mr. Bransfield would answer, but on the ordinance, it shows in the years of maturity in 43 and 53 some asterisks. What does that mean?
That means they're term bonds. So it's basically like those 2 years, they have the same rate and yield. And so money would go into a sinking fund. And so in 2043, you won't make any payment on it. Same thing with 53, 54.
I imagine most of us will be retired by then, but it's
I'll be
interesting
around.
to know.
You guys got a really good rate.
Any questions on this? This is basically in keeping with exactly what the voters approved in May. The money's the exact same, the projects are the exact same. This is just all of the detail that goes behind the issuance and the sale of those bonds so that we can receive those funds that we can start to move those funds.
Rate we received was much below what we would get.
Yeah, I believe whenever
We got a good rate.
the election analysis, we're using 5%.
S&P did a great job of asking a multi-page questionnaire of things relative to our finances. And so they went through their due diligence in this process, and I was very pleased to see an application for it that really does help a lot and keeps the cost down so much lower. And of course, we still have refunding ability on this, correct, depending upon how that coincides with your financial policies and whether we can gain a lower interest rate as we go through, and that's what your FA and bond council is about. Did you say there's specific language, Michael, that we have to use?
Not
for this?
anything really super. There, we just have some suggestions that's on the last page there.
Is this the one for ordinance 2024-17? Is this the one for the ordinance 2024-17?
Check that out. Yes.
Okay. Then I make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-17 for general obligation bonds approved by the voters in May of 2024.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. Let's go back to the top where we will address regular agenda item number 1.
Mayor, if we could back up to the public hearing. Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry. All right, at this time, the Rome City Council will conduct a public hearing to hear citizen input regarding the proposed budget for fiscal year October 1, 2024 to September 30, 2025. The time now is 6:19.
If anyone of the public would like to speak on the budget, feel free to use the microphone in the back.
No comments heard, so it's now 6:20. I'm going to close the public hearing on this topic. And we will move to another public hearing, which Rome City Council will conduct a public hearing to hear citizen input regarding the proposed tax rate for fiscal year October 1, 2024 to September 30th, 2025. It is now 6:20. I'd like to open this up for public comment. input from public. We have closed this public hearing at 6:21. On to item number 1 in the regular agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. If you don't mind, I'll just jump in here. You all have in front of you and in your packet the budget that has been prepared in conjunction with several conversations with our staff team and with council as we have gone through this process this year. I would like to call your attention to there's specific language required in this budget, and there are some changes based on some recent conversations that we've had relative to hiring additional firefighters and releasing fund balance. So prior to that decision, we had predicted that we would have a surplus in the budget. With the hiring of those 3 firefighters in the next fiscal year, it shows a slight use of fund balance. However, you will recall that Mr. Pincox had stated that he would donate towards the fire department in this coming fiscal year. What I don't have is a clear amount. I have a kind of an introductory amount, but I'd like to ask him for some additional funds. And one thing I can tell you is that in the history of looking at your budget documents, I don't find that you've ever really exceeded expenditures, and revenues have generally always come in above what we anticipated. So I do not anticipate using any of fund balance in the coming fiscal year, but for the initial issuance of the budget and adoption therein, it does show that it's slight use. I believe it's about $78,000, and I didn't want you to not be aware of that because we had discussed it at previous meetings. In utility fund, it also shows a slight use of fund balance. Now, a lot of that's going to be due to the fact that we have had some increases in chemical costs and testing costs. We also added a funded public works technician that we are currently in the search for someone to fill that position. Based on whatever council does or doesn't do with rates in the water and sewer fund, those numbers will shift. So hold those loosely because we will be talking about that once I finish the analysis on what I was asked to do as it relates to the impact to residents and businesses with any rate changes. So I hope to have those ready for you at your meeting on the 17th. And then you will probably want some time to give that some thought. And then as we make those adjustments, those numbers for the budget in the coming year will change. But I don't want you to not be aware of those changes. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the budget. You will see that what's in your packet is a much beefier piece, if you will, than just the Excel spreadsheet. I didn't feel like when I came in that our budget really told very much of a story for the city of Rome. And this is one of the things that we rolled out last year, and I think it is very helpful for the community. So we used the same format and cleaned it up a little and added a little bit more detail on the challenges and the growth issues facing Rome and the opportunities we have. So I hope that it is enjoyable for others to read, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
And that is on the city's website, correct?
It will be as soon as it is posted. It will be on the city's website. I will push out notifications on social media. If anybody wants a copy, I'm happy to print them one at City Hall if they'd like that as well. There are requirements that we have for posting on budgets, specific language, specific ways that the documents have to be put out there, and we've met all of those. So if it looks a little wonky, that would be why. For instance, this particular page that you see on the front of your budget document is required by the state. So normally I would put that 2 or 3 pages in, but it's required as a base page. So this kind of gives you a synopsis of your revenues and your expenditures and your tax rate. So it's just good to keep as a reference material. So this is not necessarily a tax rate conversation, but they kind of go hand in hand. So if you have questions on the tax rate, I can answer those as well. The voter approval rate is what I received from council as the direction for this year based on the fact that we did issue the bonds per approval of the residents, and the increase in the tax rate is to service the bonds. Any questions? Myself or one of the department heads are happy to answer them.
There are no questions or comments. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-15?
And I will say, I'm sorry to interrupt, there are specific words that you have to use, mostly in the tax rate approval. So if you will make sure if you're going to motion for the tax rate, The agenda commentary has under council motions the exact wording you have to use, and there's suggested wording for the budget. So that might help you if you are intending to be the council member who brings that forward.
Okay, we're approving the tax rate, correct?
First,
Right
you
now?
have to do the budget, which is
We
a
have to do the
little bit
budget.
out of order
Okay.
in my mind, but that's how the state requires.
Okay, got it. I make a motion to approve the budget for the fiscal year 2024-25 financial year.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Very much. Moving on to agenda item number 2, ordinance number 2024-16. This is ratifying ad valorem property tax revenue reflecting the adopted fiscal year October 1, 2024 to September 30, 2025. Annual budget record vote required. Cover the tax rate.
Thank you, Mayor. So as I mentioned, this is the tax rate for this year is set at the voter approval rate, which does not allow for petitioning of said rate. We do have the tax rate set at 0.618768, and in your budget document there are several charts and explanatory paragraphs as to why and what the money will be used for. We've dealt with a good portion of that business here this evening. We will deal with some additional businesses that relates to engineering for said project. But again, I'm happy to answer the questions. I think we've covered most of this in several of our previous meetings.
Any discussion? Question? All right, do I hear a motion at this time to adopt the tax rate?
I make a motion property tax rate be increased by the adoption of the tax rate at the voter approval rate of 0.618768, which is effectively a 69.67% increase in the tax rate.
Hear a second?
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on. Item number 3 on your regular agenda, contract approval with Kimberly Horn for engineering of the West Wastewater Treatment Plant.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. We do have an agenda commentary in your packet that you can read relative to this. This has to do with the contract that we need to execute and sign with Kimberly Horn so that they can begin the process of engineering all 3 of those projects. Mr. Chris Vela is here from Kimberly Horn if you have any questions for him specifically. But it's fairly straightforward. Most engineering costs are a percentage of the project itself. And so you will see that each one of these has its own contract and its own explanation as to the cost, but it is built into the project and well within our budgeted amount from the bond issuance. But we do need to move this forward so that we can keep the projects on track.
Discussion, question? This time do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the contracts with Kimberly Horn infrastructure projects approved by the voters in May of 2020.
A second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
And Mayor, the way that was worded, that will take care of number 4 and 5 as well.
Moving on to, we will go to item number 7 in your packet, regular agenda. The Christmas tree event and tree lighting.
So bear with me. I'm going to see if I can pull up some of these. Goodness, that TV is still across the room. Today's date. Does everybody see that up there? There we go. Wow. Okay, so in your packet, we do have some examples of some ideas that staff and I have come up with relative to some suggestions that we have for the community. As you all know, we have a hotel motel fund. which is meant to drive tourism and bring folks into Rome. And we can only spend money on those particular items that will drive folks into our community. We have been talking for quite a while now about community events and the opportunity that we may have from which to host a community event. And what staff and I would like to put before you this evening is the idea of creating something, at least for this first outing, that revolves around Christmas and creating community spirit and cheer for that time of year. We have talked as a team about the possibility of hosting in each neighborhood a yard decorating or light contest for both Bywell or Ellis and Chisholm and Old Town and Crown Point, and that way everybody could be involved. We would have something that is a people's choice, if you will, in each neighborhood, and then a mayor's choice in each neighborhood. And we would recognize the home, and we would be able to celebrate the spirit of Christmas and that time of year with others in our community. And we think holding one for each neighborhood is the best way to do that. We've also talked about, and I've spoken with my very willing elves in the back who are getting excited about the idea of potentially creating Christmas trees that we could put around town that are, you've seen them, we've got actually a slide here that would represent kind of what they look like. We'd like to create something like this. It's relatively inexpensive to do. The Public Works team is extremely handy with welding, and they've made all the flags that we put out for Veterans Day and others over near the park. But we'd like to have several of these, 15 to 20 of them, that we could put around town at a variety of spots. We'd also like for council to give some consideration at some point in the future to potentially purchasing some sort of decoration out of that fund. Both of these that you see displayed on the screen, they're fairly expensive in my opinion, and I'm not recommending it for this year, but it's something I think we could throw into. One of the things that I'd like to see Rhome, or at least council, consider is Rhome becoming the Christmas capital of Wise County. It will drive folks to our community. You will have family after family come through just to look at all of the lights, and it becomes very fun and festive and creates community spirit and just really helps draw the community together. We have started moving forward with plans, or at least we started laying out plans to decorate all the city buildings. So the police department will be decorated with blue and white lights, which is very appropriate. And the fire department will have red and white going all around this building, out along the front of the old school and along the back. And if you think about it, we have a perfect opportunity right here out the back of this building for people to literally see Rhome from miles away. If we have our Christmas lights up and we are being festive and we are pursuing that type of community gathering. We'd like to have some of the pole trees here at the fire station. We could potentially like to talk about a Christmas tree lighting event. I know that the veterans have done that in the past. As a matter of fact, you all have an email from Mrs. Beecraft outlining the plans that she has already planned for the veterans group. I don't know that we could meet her time deadline. If you have looked at that email, she has stated that they would like to do something at the Veterans Park on the 30th of November, but a lot of our families will be traveling at that time. It's not unusual for a city to do a tree lighting event that first week after Thanksgiving so that everyone can get back in town and they can gather as a team or as a community and have the tree lighting. We'd very much like to see that Christmas tree lighting event become a really great place for our residents to gather and get to know each other and celebrate Rhome. I have been involved in this in other cities. We've even rented a carriage where people can have carriage rides. We've rented the blow-up, looks like a giant snow globe that you can get in and take pictures with your family. We've had a Santa come out. The pictures are generally given for free. The city bears the cost of it, and it's not very much. And you can use the hotel motel fund to finance a lot of this. We can also get sponsorships through businesses that could potentially be a part of this. And if we start this year, then we grow it every year as we go out. But we need some place to start. We need something that everyone enjoys. Christmas is always a very gracious and wonderful time of year, and I think it'd be a good idea for us to consider this as our first foray into a event. And the team is very excited about this possibility. Matter of fact, we've talked to a couple at City Hall about also see on here, we think we can build these archways in front of the old school, which would give people a photo opportunity for their families. We could set a bench under there. Some of this we can build ourselves, which will help keep costs down. This is something I'd love for us to get one day, but these little suckers are expensive. And so we're going to have to work into this. We can certainly look at something like this around the community where we have up these signs and banners, which creates that community spirit. These are about $150, $200 a piece. And then Miss Julie and Miss Evie at City Hall are apparently very adept at painting. So we would like to create some facades of a city hall, a police department, a fire department, and make our own little Christmas village. Now I'm not talking like on the desk. I'm talking Christmas buildings where we painted the front. It's just got a box in the back. But we could set those around town, and we can add one each year or two each year, depending upon how quickly we can make this happen. We can certainly look at any number of other things. The angel that you see positioned there, they're about $150 roughly, and we could put those in a variety of spots. But all of that would really bring us together, I think, and I think that it would create a real sense of community and camaraderie amongst our residents, and people will come here as a base. There's nothing like it around us, and people will come here to be a part of it in Rome. So it's something that we're bringing to council. If you do want us to pursue this, then we would certainly need some authorization to expend the funds out of the hotel motel account. Last time I checked, you had well over $100,000 in there, and I'm by no means suggesting we spend it all, but I think we should spend some, because you can only spend it on something that attracts tourism for folks to your community. So that's kind of our picture slideshow, and that's kind of our thought process. If you all would like to ask any questions, or if you have anything that we can shed some light on, we're happy to do that.
I love it. I mean, I think that's a perfect idea. Could we do something along the main street, like going, I mean, just
If we work into this, and by the way, I'm fully behind this. I think it's a great idea for the future. Eventually, I can see the main street going through Rome being where they can come in, make the loop, come right back out to BC Rome, and make that Christmas. And how many we can get so many people to come through town to do this, and we can grow into this. Take small steps, but we're going to start somewhere.
Yeah. And especially if like some other student members do.
But we have found that we can go to Ace Hardware or somewhere, and we can buy them by the roll, and we can make them ourselves, which makes them specific to the building. That way, when we store them, we know exactly which one they go on. So when we bring them back out the next year, we don't have to keep untangling the knot, if you will. So we're looking forward to that. We have some folks on the staff on the fire department already who do this as kind of a weekend type thing. Now, we're not contracting with anyone. This will all be kind of sweat of our brow type stuff, especially this first year, but they're willing to pitch in and be staff volunteers for it. And it's got a real momentum among the staff. People are very excited about it.
will our Ace Hardware be open?
No, ma'am.
Like we could go to our Ace Hardware.
Or we could shop the Justin store, but no, they will not be open.
I'm thrilled to see the staff get excited about something, and it's going to really make an impact on the community. And I just love the idea of the spirit and camaraderie.
Any other comment? If not, do I hear a motion? Ready to stand? Not pursued.
I make a motion to direct staff to pursue options for fall event based on our discussion today.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, council.
Moving on. The next thing we have is number 8 on your list is the facilities and park use policy. This is one that we need to enact with the city for our city-owned facilities, the pavilion at the family park, the veterans park, so that people that want exclusive use of these work through the city for reserve this so that, I mean, it's a liability issue for the city. The city is responsible to the taxpayer to maintain and control the facilities of the taxpayers own. So what we need is a policy that's coherent, that people can really know what it takes to use these facilities. That was the reason behind it.
Thank you, Mayor. So what you have in front of you, you've got a couple of page document. I took what was on the application form that we are currently using when people want to rent the Civic Pavilion at the park. You will see that I added some red language in this, which is new. And that's why I've color coded it a little bit differently so you don't have to hunt and peck and see what the changes are. As you will see, it says facility and park use policy. We have had some folks make requests to use this room. It may be something that council wants to consider. It may not. That's why it's in front of you for some feedback and direction. This is not necessarily in resolution form for us to move forward this evening, but it is something that is a possibility, especially if we continue to maintain this and make a few improvements. We might be able to make it available for residents to have a small gathering, a birthday party, something to that effect, but it does have some parameters around it. So if you'll kind of walk with me through this, I included a paragraph at the top which kind of gives a synopsis as to why we would need this and what a facility and park use policy is. There's also a couple of definitions that a facility means any city-owned building that's made available for rental to the general public. And then park means and applies to the use of not only the Civic Pavilion and the restrooms associated with the Civic Pavilion, but the Veterans Park, because we do often have folks who use some area of the park system, either the pavilion or the Veterans Park. And at least as it relates to the Veterans Park, currently we often don't know that it's going to be used until the day of. And so this would help us alert TV, alert fire that it is going to be used. It has been given authorization for a yes and such group to use it for this purpose from this time to this time, so that they are aware of that authorization based on the parameters that council has set. This does require that all users have to submit a request for an application to use the facility. It worries me when we have folks go into the pavilion or the park or the Veterans Park to use it and we don't have any knowledge. I'm not sure how that would work with our insurance company, so that concerns me a bit. It does allow reservations to an approved applicant for them to use it for the duration of their event, and only one reservation at a time. We cannot reserve the entirety of the park, just the Civic Pavilion. We cannot restrict the use of a public park in its entire footprint, if you will. So people are allowed to use that park because it is made public and it does allow them to have access. But the pavilion you can restrict. The Veterans Park you can restrict. This room we can. If we have any other facilities that allow the folks to rent out a room, that's something that could cover us in the future. You'll see that 4 through 11 on that first page are already in the document that's being used. If you go to page 3, you will see that there are no public address, and I added the words speaker system or amplification system that can be used before 9 or after 10, especially considering the family in the Veterans Park is in a residential area. We certainly don't want those folks disturbed. You'll also see that number 29 and 31 are highlighted yellow. This is currently in our policy. No alcoholic beverages on city property and smoking is not permitted. So just to reiterate that these are the policy directions that you want to set. I'm happy to discuss any concerns that you have or any direction you want to give staff. As I mentioned, this is not for action this evening, but it's something that I've been working with the mayor on, and he has reviewed this policy just so that we can make sure that the city is well represented and that they understand who's using their assets when, and that we have given permission for assets to be.
Okay, so this is pretty much saying that we just want, as a city, to know when somebody's occupying that area. It's not necessarily a fee based unless they're renting out the building.
Correct.
Okay.
What is the fee to the pavilion?
So last I talked to Julie, the residential use of the pavilion was a $100 deposit that's refundable, and then there's a $25 electric fee. We don't currently charge for this facility, as you know, but if council would like to pursue that option, I will need to work on some things associated with it. For one, we have TV, we have electronics in here, so the deposit, in my opinion, would need to be higher. There's also a need for a staff member to be on site, since this is a city facility and it is adjacent to the fire department. You would need supervision. So I don't know that we'd have a lot of requests, but I have also had, just recently, Mr. Pincox asked if he could hold a meeting here. And I had to tell him we don't have a policy that covers that, and we would be talking about it. But if it's somebody that's going to host something that could potentially damage this room, we need to make sure that the costs are covered, because the city should not be held liable for that. And we've got to hold council, so we have to make sure all of our items work. If they need chairs moved, if they need desks moved, we need to make sure we have a staff liaison for them. So that's why I have facility in here in red, to see if council does not want to consider renting out this space at this time. I can certainly remove any reference to that. We can confine it to just Civic Pavilion at the family park. Yes,
There will be for the Veterans Park.
not currently. So I think the big questions here, one of the first ones is, do you want to consider facility use? And if not, I can certainly remove that language. If you want to consider an application for the Veterans Park, that is a new component of this, but it is something that I think would behoove us, so that if TML calls and there's an accident there, I can say, yes, we knew that park was being used by this group. They had filled out an application.
I actually thought that this facility was available. I remember discussing that a few years back.
I don't find a policy that covers that. It doesn't mean it wasn't discussed. I just didn't find something that documented it that we could use.
Never had a official policy codified for the city's property. Just talked about it, approved on the spot, but we owe it to the citizens that want to use these facilities to give them a clear guidance on what it takes to use it. And the city knows our insurance companies are having, it's a liability issue. People are using our property, the taxpayers' property without permission.
So my concern is tonight we moved the meeting. So we're renting out this facility. For some reason, we needed to move the meeting. It creates a conflict with what's just a conflict.
So the policy document or the information does allow us the ability to usurp them if an emergency occurs on behalf of the city. One of the things that I don't know is clearly understood is when you rent a city facility, you're supposed to carry insurance on your debt. I don't know that people do that. So that's something that you all need to be mindful of, because if we're renting out our facilities and someone is injured and the renter does not have insurance, the person who's injured may look to the city as a party to hold responsible. So we probably need to figure out how you want to continue to have that in the document. It is in the application when folks sign from which to use the Civic Pavilion, but I'm not sure that it's clearly understood. It's number 20 on page 2 if you're interested in looking at that.
We need to designate specific insurance carriers.
We're covered by TML, but if they're going to get their own policy, they just would need to provide us documentation. Now, some folks could potentially call whoever they have their homeowners with and get extended coverage for X amount. But that is a weak spot in some of our usage of our facilities, because the city will be seen as an attractive party to any lawsuit if someone is injured. Does that make sense?
At this time, I think I'm just comfortable with use of the pavilion and Veterans Park.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm a little leery of letting whoever come in here now that we've had this discussion, but is there a way to, so if Mr. Hancock says, hey, we can hold a meeting, could we do something, or like, yeah, we can do that for them, but not hold a birthday party for someone else? I don't,
It's really a policy that covers everyone, so we either need to allow or disallow. And like I said, it's why I put it in red, because I don't know how council feels, and we may not be there yet. We certainly don't have a lot of depth in the bench for staff to be coming in on the weekend in order to oversee an event. It's just something that as we grow as a community, we should consider, because it'd be a nice opportunity for residents. If you want to hold a birthday party and you don't want 45 children in your home, you might want to have them here or right out front, but that's something that we can grow into.
Trying to live with an eye always to the future. We got to look down the road. Maybe right now, maybe it's bridge too far, but one day when we finally have some sort of administrative building that the city will operate, this space is still used, then we can use it then. That's something else about it.
well, the fact that we're thin on staff, I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say 52, guys. Just pause it for now and explain things.
So then the next question is what I'm hearing is that you want us to update our paperwork to include the Veterans Park as a component of our park system where it needs a reservation in order to use it. Is that correct? Now, there's not a fee associated with that, but that would certainly help us to coordinate things considerably. Okay, well, I will get this updated and we will have it on your consent for the 17th to take a look at.
All right. Comment? We'll move on to number 9. The nomination of a representative to the Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool.
Thank you, Mayor, and that is correct. We nominated someone for Region 8 Director at large the last time, and this time we have the opportunity to nominate a few people to place 11, 12, 13, and 14 to the Intergovernmental Risk Pool for TML. And kind of going off the direction that I received the last time, I did a little research on the folks that are running for one of these places that have more than one person. If you would like to know my recommendations, I'm happy to share those. If you all have your own that you want to put forward, that's perfectly fine as well.
I want to hear recommendations.
So for place 11, I think the incumbent, Mr. Criswell, he has a very wide berth of public service. And I would say he may be a very good candidate to continue to serve on that board. I would recommend Allison Hayward for place 12. She is also the incumbent, and she has been on this board for several years, and she's been on the TML board of directors. She is in several leadership programs. She has a certified municipal office official designation. She has an award of excellence. She's very well credentialed, in my opinion. On place 13, I know Mr. Jefferson. He is a person of good quality, good ethics. He is also an incumbent, so I would recommend to council to consider that one. Mr. Land in place 14, also an incumbent. I also know him. He is a very good person to serve on the board and to continue in the role that he's in now. So those would be my recommendations.
Exactly what this
Well, that's a great question. And I have that written up in my office. But the Intergovernmental Risk Pool takes a look at things. They come in and they evaluate, they set parameters in which they evaluate the risk that a city has in the building. So some of our risks and our rates have gone up or down based on a variety of things. How many firefighters do we have? How many buildings do we have? What kind of workers' comp coverage, et cetera. And so they set some rates for our insurance through TML.
question. Council is ready to make a motion and make nominations.
You also have the ability to write in a candidate if you want to put Mayor Crenshaw in there.
Motion.
I make a motion. No. I make a motion for place 11 member to be nominated Randy Roosevelt, 12 member Allison Caesar, 13 member Harlan Jefferson, and place 14
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on. Last item on the regular agenda, appointment of interim presiding and associate judge to the municipal court. I believe that-
Yes, sir. If you don't mind, we'd like to table that conversation until we have an opportunity for Mr. Atkins to be here this evening. We had a conflict with another city and a meeting that he really needed to attend, so if we could reschedule it, that would be excellent.
Awesome. I believe that would be appropriate. There are no items for executive session. All right. Future agenda items, we have a short-term rental policy, panhandling ordinance, sign regulation ordinance, noise ordinance, and Ellis dedication. Do I have any other items for the future agenda?
I'm curious, and it may already be something that I don't know about, but about the use of, I don't know what to call them, Polaris, golf cart, vehicles on the
There is a state law that covers those motor vehicles, state highway, which is any road that has a speed limit.
But is there anything about on our city streets in our neighborhood?
That would be something you would have to get some direction on, specific to. We're looking at any type of state constructed road, I believe that's 40 or 45. Chief, do you know? Yeah.
What about vehicles with placarded with SOP signs?
Okay, I think this is something that we should look at, having come from a place where we have neighborhood schools that will clean up an issue. I've seen the truck run, I'm sure you've seen it, right? Truck runs where we need to be ahead and have a plan for, we're already starting to see it in our neighborhood, and we have some children as well, so just like something. And maybe there already is something, and we just need to put some publication out. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have my hands on 3 different cities, so I can put it together.
The only thing I've seen is on the different state law. And state law is for UTVs that have licensed at each street legal. They can only operate on the state highway with speed limit of 30 miles per hour or less. That was the state law. Golf carts and four-wheelers and ATVs. The ATV, UTV, golf cart, 3 different classes of vehicles that would have to be addressed each separately or in and around neighborhoods.
So, Kim, are we going to put it on the agenda?
It is a future agenda item. We will, things we like to keep on our radar, so that as the agenda and city business permits, we can keep these things on so we don't lose sight of them.
And I've been updating certain ordinances we have. If there's another one that comes up, just let me know. I've got my hands on a bunch of them. Update all of them.
Thank you. All right, anything else? Anybody would like to add to future agenda items? Nope. Okay. At this time, do we have a motion to adjourn? We don't have to.
I move to adjourn this meeting so we can watch the Cowboy game.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. It's 7 o'clock.